Imagine waking up one morning and seeing price tags everywhere, on groceries, electronics, clothes, jumping by 20%, seemingly overnight. Now imagine that millions of households like yours are suddenly spending thousands more each year for the same basics. What if I told you that this scenario is neither distant nor hypothetical, but a direct consequence of the latest U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods, which have quietly set the stage for the next global economic shock? As U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports rise to a stunning 30%, the echoes of these decisions are rumbling far beyond the marble halls of Washington. This is the story of how a trade war fueled by political ambition is about to hit your wallet, and why it could reshape the way the world does business for years to come. The brewing storm began with a simple question: how do you balance global competition with national interests? The answer, at least in recent U.S. policy, has been to slap tariffs on foreign goods, particularly those from China. But if tariffs are just taxes by another name, who really shoulders the burden? The answer might surprise you, and the story is more personal than most people realize. Let's rewind briefly. For decades, the U.S. and China have been locked in an intricate economic dance. After China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, trade between the two countries exploded. China became the factory of the world, exporting everything from iPhones to t-shirts to soybeans. American consumers, meanwhile, enjoyed an era of low prices and seemingly endless choices. But by 2018, a new sense of unease was building in Washington. The Trump administration accused China of unfair trade practices, from currency manipulation to intellectual property theft. In response, the U.S. fired the first shots of what would become a full-scale trade war, imposing tariffs on billions of dollars of Chinese goods. China retaliated in kind. It was more than a policy shift. It became a headline, a campaign slogan, and a rallying cry for economic nationalism. Fast forward to today. The average effective U.S. tariff rate on Chinese imports has soared to 22.5%, a figure not seen since the days of Teddy Roosevelt in 1909. And now, with the latest measures, some tariffs are climbing as high as 30%. This is not just a blip. It's an economic earthquake with aftershocks rippling through supply chains across the globe. The numbers are staggering. The Yale Budget Lab calculates that these tariffs will cost the average American household $3,800 more each year. Prices across the board are expected to jump by at least 2.3%. The electronics, apparel, and agriculture sectors are among the hardest hit. In plain English, your next smartphone, your favorite jeans, and even your local supermarket produce could all be more expensive very soon. Erica York from the Tax Foundation offers a brutal truth. Tariffs reduce overall economic output by distorting production and investment decisions. It's a ripple effect. Companies facing higher costs for imported materials are forced to either absorb the blow, cut jobs, or pass those costs on to you, the consumer. Just ask Michael Weeder, co-founder of Lalo, a startup selling high-end baby products through Target and Amazon. He tried to shield his customers from price hikes after the first rounds of tariffs, but with each escalation, the pressure grew unbearable. We're facing a real choice: accept smaller margins or raise prices. In the end, it's the families who lose, he admits. Weeder's story is echoed by countless American business owners juggling shrinking margins, restless customers, and increasingly uncertain supply chains. Yet tariffs aren't just a domestic headache. They're a global tremor. J.P. Morgan's research paints a sobering picture. If tariffs rise universally to 10% and U.S.-China tariffs peak at 110%, world GDP could shrink by as much as 1%. That's a staggering $850 billion in lost output, enough to fund the entire healthcare budget of several major countries, gone in the crossfire of a trade dispute. Why are these tariffs having such a dramatic impact? At the heart of the issue is the modern supply chain, an intricate web spanning oceans, continents, and time zones. Your smartphone might be designed in California, have its camera lens made in Japan, chips from Taiwan, and final assembly in Shenzhen, China. Each link in this chain depends on smooth, predictable trade. When tariffs slam one part of the chain, the entire structure shudders. It's not just electronics. The apparel industry relies on Chinese manufacturing for affordable, diverse products. American farmers, once confident exporters, now face plunging demand as China imposes retaliatory duties on soybeans, pork, and corn. The result? Surplus crops rot in silos while farmers wonder how to survive another year. But, some ask, isn't protecting American industry worth the pain? The answer is complex. In the short run, certain sectors of U.S. manufacturing may benefit. According to projections, manufacturing as a whole could expand by 2.3%. Yet, this is a double-edged sword. Advanced manufacturing, think precision engineering, aerospace, and pharmaceuticals, faces a contraction of 1.4%. Why? Because these industries rely most heavily on complex global supply chains, specialized materials, and high-skill labor, features not easily or cheaply replaced domestically. Chad Bown of the Peterson Institute for International Economics emphasizes, tariffs are taxes that make domestic consumers and firms worse off. That's the paradox at the heart of the matter. The intended targets, foreign competitors, often find ways to adapt, while local businesses and households absorb the pain. Consider the wider fallout. As prices rise, households tighten their belts, reducing discretionary spending. The Yale Budget Lab warns that real GDP growth in the U.S. will be 0.8% lower by 2025 due to these trade measures. The unemployment rate, meanwhile, is expected to tick up by 0.4 percentage points. Thousands of jobs lost or never created, all while consumers pay more for less. And the rest of the world is not immune. Canada, heavily intertwined with American supply chains, could see its own economy contract by 2.2% over time. Isabel Studer-Neme of El Colegio de Mexico points out, USMCA reduces the risk of tariffs in North America, but the region is not immune to global trade tensions. All this economic pain has a silver lining, at least for the U.S. Treasury. The Tax Foundation estimates that these tariffs will boost federal tax revenues by $157.4 billion in 2025. But at what cost? Higher taxes on imports are simply passed down the chain until they wind up in your checkout receipt. Of course, some see opportunity in the chaos. Domestic manufacturers, especially those producing simple goods, are rushing to fill the void left by more expensive Chinese imports. U.S. officials tout the reshoring of strategic industries as a win for national security, claiming it will reduce dependency on foreign adversaries. But, as Olu Sonola from Fitch Ratings wisely notes, the U.S.-China trade de-escalation does not signal trade normalization. Uncertainty remains a key factor. The business world dislikes uncertainty above all else. No one wants to invest millions in new machinery or plant expansions if the rules could change with every election cycle. If the U.S. continues to escalate tariffs or other countries follow suit, the world faces a troubling prospect, the fragmentation of global supply chains. Instead of a single, efficient network, trade could increasingly be routed through regional blocks. This would mean higher prices, less variety, and reduced efficiency, outcomes virtually guaranteed to hurt consumers worldwide. Yet the story doesn't end here. The world stands at a crossroads. Policymakers are divided between managed trade, partial decoupling, or all-out escalation. Each path carries risks and rewards, but what's clear is that the old rules of global commerce, the rules that made electronics, clothes, and even food cheaper and more abundant, are under threat like never before. This raises a provocative question. If tariffs are here to stay, what will the future of global trade look like? Will companies find creative ways to adapt, or will consumers be forced to accept a permanently higher cost of living? Can the U.S. really become self-reliant in high-tech sectors, or is complete decoupling just an expensive illusion? As inventories dwindle, shipping costs surge, and American businesses sound the alarm, the world is holding its breath. The next moves, both in Washington and Beijing, could tip the balance between recovery and recession. In the second half of this video, we'll uncover the hidden strategies companies are deploying to survive, the political maneuvers unfolding behind closed doors, and ask, who will emerge stronger from this high-stakes economic standoff? America, China, consumers, or none of the above? Let's pick up right where we left off. With 30% tariffs now weighing down the U.S.-China economic corridor, businesses, consumers, and policymakers alike are facing a crossroads. The crisis is more than a headline. It's an everyday reality, with everyday costs. But what comes next? As tempers flare and strategies shift, let's peer into the possible futures that now hang in the balance. Imagine a world where these tariffs become the new normal. The average U.S. tariff rate is already at a staggering 22.5%, a level not seen since 1909. According to the Yale Budget Lab, every American household stands to lose about $3,800 just in the short term. That's not a theoretical number. It's a lost vacation, fewer groceries, or a delay in buying that new phone you wanted. But it doesn't end there. Jobs are quietly slipping away. By the end of 2025, as these tariffs ripple through the economy, the unemployment rate is expected to climb by another 0.4 percentage points. Your neighbor, your friend, maybe someone in your family, these are the people behind that cold statistic. Tariffs are taxes that make domestic consumers and firms worse off, reminds Chad Bown of the Peterson Institute. Is anyone actually better off in this scenario? Well, some manufacturing sectors could see short-lived gains. Think of basic steel mills suddenly being revived. Yet for advanced manufacturing, the story gets grim. A projected 1.4% contraction, as the complexity of global supply chains makes moving production an expensive, difficult task. So the jobs gained here may be lost somewhere else. Then there's the bigger picture, the global economy. J.P. Morgan estimates that a universal 10% tariff, combined with a severe 110% tariff on select Chinese goods, could shave a full percentage point off the world's GDP. That's trillions of dollars in lost growth, felt everywhere from New York to Nairobi, from Beijing to Berlin. Canada, usually the U.S.'s friendly economic neighbor, isn't spared. Projections suggest a 2.2% long-run contraction in Canada's economy due to the cascading effects of tariffs and inevitable retaliation. We're not just talking about bruised egos between presidents. This is families, livelihoods, and hopes for the future dealt a serious blow. So, what are the roads ahead? Experts see three main scenarios emerging from this standoff. First, there's managed trade. In this picture, the two giants find a way to reduce tariffs, agreeing to reforms on intellectual property and market access. Optimistic? Maybe. But it would stabilize prices and allow supply chains to heal, if both sides can swallow their pride and make meaningful concessions. Next, escalation. Should tariffs march higher and investment restrictions harden, we could witness a fractured world economy. Supply chains would be torn apart. Prices, already rising, would soar further. Not just gadgets and clothes, but essentials like food and medicine. Economic growth would slow to a crawl. Politics would become more toxic, with voters feeling the pain at home and blaming rivals abroad. And then there's partial decoupling, a sort of uneasy middle path. The U.S. might bring back some critical industries, chip making, pharmaceuticals, basic materials, while still buying everyday items from China and other low-cost producers. But this comes at a cost: higher prices, decreased efficiency, and new vulnerabilities as production is shuffled from one country to another. Supply chains would change shape, but uncertainty would linger. No matter the scenario, one thing becomes clear: the era of frictionless globalization may be over. Isabel Studer-Nemi cautions, USMCA reduces tariff risk in North America, but the region is not immune to global trade tensions. In other words, even countries outside the direct crossfire can and will be caught in the economic shockwaves. But why do these choices matter to you right now? Let's break it down. Every time you see a price bump at the store, a little more for that pair of shoes, an extra $1 for your phone charger, it's this trade war at work. Every time a favorite product is suddenly out of stock, or a local factory shutters its doors, you're seeing the aftershocks of these global economic decisions. Maybe you're a business owner. You've spent years, maybe decades, building a supply chain that's now upended overnight. Do you pay the higher costs, pass them on to customers, or try to move production somewhere else? Each choice comes with new risks: trusted suppliers replaced by unknowns, or price hikes testing your customers' loyalty. Or maybe you're an employee wondering if your job is secure. The truth is, the ripple effects are everywhere. Tariffs reduce overall economic output by distorting production and investment decisions, warns Erica York from the Tax Foundation. That means fewer jobs, less investment, and less innovation, unless something changes. And if you're an investor, these swings create both risk and opportunity. Certain industries, like US-based steel and aluminum, might see a short-term boost. Others, especially advanced manufacturers relying on global components, could struggle. The smart money is watching supply chain adaptation. Which firms can diversify fastest, manage costs best, and anticipate the next twist in trade policy. But here's the practical takeaway. Flexibility and information are now your strongest assets. For consumers, that means being alert. Prices may shift unexpectedly, so watch for deals, buy in bulk when possible, and be wary of sudden price spikes in electronics, apparel, and groceries. For small business owners, this is the time to audit your supply chains. Are you overly dependent on one region or material? Start exploring alternatives now, not just to stay profitable, but to keep your business resilient if tariffs escalate further. Policymakers and voters also play a crucial role. Trade wars aren't inevitable. They're shaped by political choices. If you want lower prices and stable jobs, pay attention to candidates' trade policies. Demand specifics. Are they for reducing tariffs and seeking compromise, or escalating the fight? Your vote matters more than ever. There's another angle, too, one that gets overlooked in the heat of political arguments. Trade is not a zero-sum game. It's not about one side winning everything and the other losing all. In reality, both the US and China, and their people, stand to lose more by stubbornly digging in. The wounds of this trade war are slow to heal and leave scars on both sides of the Pacific. But perhaps the biggest secret is this. Behind all the headlines, negotiations, and tariff lists lies a fundamental truth. Global trade is personal. It's the convenience of a product arriving at your door in 2 days. It's the job that puts food on your family's table. It's the rising or falling fortunes of whole communities. This is why every tariff, every policy shift echoes in the everyday life of millions. So, can anyone truly win this economic standoff? The reality is sobering. There may be temporary victors, a steel plant here, a soybean field there, but in the big picture, trade wars are battles where everyone walks away wounded. The US-China trade de-escalation does not signal trade normalization. Uncertainty remains a key factor, says Olu Sonola of Fitch Ratings. In plain English, there is no clear victory, just different shades of loss and adaptation. Yet, in every crisis lies opportunity. Companies that adapt can build more resilient, diversified supply chains. Policymakers can use this moment to create smarter, fairer rules for global commerce, ones that protect workers without closing off the world. And as a society, we can demand transparency, accountability, and vision from our leaders. Before we wrap up, here's one more secret you won't hear on the nightly news. While tariffs grab attention, the real drivers of prosperity are innovation, education, and cooperation. The winners won't be those who close their doors the fastest, but those who find new ways to work together and out-innovate the competition. So where does that leave us? The US-China tariff war has pushed families, businesses, and nations to the brink. The scars will last. But if we learn the right lessons, stay informed, adapt, demand better from our leaders, and seek common ground, there is a path not just to recovery, but to a more balanced and resilient global economy. What do you think? Has the trade war affected you or your business directly? Do you see opportunity in this new reality, or only challenges? Let us know your story in the comments below. Your voice matters. And if you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll keep bringing you the stories behind the headlines, the insights you need to navigate a fast-changing world.